what are you looking for when you start transitioning off of the wall? What are you looking for that's solid on the wall that you're...
You know, that depends. Bill was here. Well, you were here too. When Don Blair said he looks for, what he say, 70%.
70 to 80%. Yeah, was his figure.
Like he'll move to the next step when the dog's at 70% on the current step. That's what Don said. It's not what I believe, but that's what Don said. and just like with Bill, you know, I'm in no position and probably will never be in a position to question anything Don says or anything Bill says. So my opinion is what's that?
What do you do?
I wait till they're 100% before I move to the next step.
Yeah, I'm a kind of 100% guy too, but
see what you're doing.
But again, I'm trained. Don comes from a background of he was the head trainer for U.S. Customs for 20-some years, where he was literally turning out probably 1,000 detector dogs a year. He can't spend 7 months on one step. I'm not turning out 1,000 detector dogs. I'll never turn out 1,000 detector dogs in my lifetime. I got 2 detector dogs right now, and maybe Uno, depending on what we decide to do with him. I'll probably do some. It won't be virtual. It'll probably be explosives over with Uno. But regardless, so yeah, I wait to answer your question. I wait until he's that good on the wall before I take him to the next step. But the truth is, shit, he's been that good on the wall for months already. I mean, he's been really clear on the wall.
Yeah, the only thing that changed for Quinto was going from the food to the toy wall, but he was the same way on the food ball. Well, physically, you try to pull them off, and when you can't pull them off and they're that confident and sure, that's when he knows that they're, you know, he's consistently doing that.
Yeah, but I mean, both these dogs, Dexter and Quinto, have both been as accurate on the wall. You know, the accuracy that you saw on the wall today has been there for months already. Right. You know, and I mean, even when if you go back and look, 60 Minutes was here in March, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you see a short video clip on that 60 Minutes thing with that same puppy on that same wall in March, and he looked exactly the same then that he looks today. So, and at that point, he was like 5 months old, I guess. Less than 6 months old. 5 months or something like that. So, you can progress really quickly as long as the steps are very clear to the dog. My opinion is, if you try to go too fast, you know, you're gonna lose a lot of that. Now, Don's logic is, Don calls that a parlor trick. He said, I don't give a shit how focused they are on it. What I care about is how fast they find it, and that's true. And if he says it's somewhere in the back, because he works in the border at U.S. Customs between America and Mexico. If he says there's drugs in this semi, that's all they need to know. They don't need to know if it's in the front or the back. They're gonna confiscate the whole truck and rip the whole damn thing apart. They're gonna find it. Once the dog tells them it's in this truck, they'll take care of the rest. So he doesn't really care how much they pinpoint it. And his logic is, you know, the length, and he's right, because we started these puppies when they were 7 weeks old. They're 7 or 8 months old now, so we've got essentially five months of training in them. Don's logic is, in 5 months, he could train 100 dogs.
But those 5 months that you trained the dog, starting at 7 weeks, it was kind of what you're telling me, like maybe 3 times a week?
Yeah, if that. I mean, I'd be optimistic if I said we train them 3 times a week on average every week. I mean, that's the first time they've been in there in 2 weeks. And there's certainly been plenty of times when they've gone a week and didn't have any work at all. They've never been worked. They've almost never been worked more than, they've almost never been worked back to back, two days in a row. Sometimes they have been, but typically there's at least 1 or 2 days in between. What I need to do is document the number of sessions, because I've not done that. But it's surprisingly low. It's not as many as you would think. As she can tell you, I mean, shit, it's not as many as you think.
And then once the dog is there, do you back down on the number of trainings that you do to keep them sharp?
Not really. Now understand, I don't purposely make them wait 2 weeks between training sessions. Like, that's not, I don't do that for the benefit of the dog. I do it because I don't have time to do it. So I don't really have a ton of time to spend with individual dogs.
If you had the time, what do you think would be the ideal number of times per week?
I'd say with your puppy, I would start off probably every other day.
Okay.
And I would keep them hungry. Like, I would maybe you go from liver treats. You know, they make some prepackaged raw food that are nutritionally balanced and complete. That it can actually be a meal. and it's still palatable. It's not like kibble where he's got to. Thing is, if you give him kibble, he crunches it up and
Didn't like kibble.
it falls on the ground, and you lose a lot of valuable training there. If you use hot dogs or maybe a little bit bigger liver treats, or some of this prepackaged semi-raw food that's not entirely raw. It's got preservatives in it, but it's still better than kibble. It tastes a whole lot better for me, a lot more palatable. You can kind of make a meal out of that. And so, like, these two dogs, other than the handful of hot dogs you see me throw in their crates every now and then, that's just to reinforce going into the crate always, they have not eaten really out of their crates for probably 10 days. Every single meal they've gotten has came from my hand in obedience out there in the field. Or with him, he's gotten a couple meals off the track, a couple meals from my hand in obedience, and food from being in here. But he doesn't really eat out of a bowl ever anymore. So if with your puppy, maybe I would feed him on the off days, or maybe I would do tracking. Maybe you wouldn't necessarily do tracking with yours, but I mean, like if it's a dog that if it's a police dog that I'm raising, maybe Monday he tracks for his breakfast and he does obedience for his dinner, and Tuesday he does detection work for his breakfast and he tracks for his dinner, and Wednesday he does obedience for his breakfast and he does obedience for his dinner. And then Thursday he does detection in the morning and tracking. You see what I'm saying? So
yes.
he does a task for every meal, whether it's tracking, detection, or obedience. And I mix those up and make those really variable. Okay. But he does something for his food. I don't just say, you know what, I'm tired. Here, I mean, myself I do because I got 40 of them. If I only had one, I don't just say, nah, I'm tired today, so I'm just going to throw some food in your crate and let you get a day off. I make him do something for his food every day. And he will do something for his food every day because he wants to stay alive, and he wants to eat.
And that's the regime of the State Farm accelerant detection dogs.
Yeah, I know the ATF does that.
Yeah, well, the ATF,
Yeah.
yeah, that's.
The DOC does that
Yeah.
in Arizona too.
Yeah. Now that's I'm not saying I would do that for the rest of his life, and I think those guys do forever.
Yeah,
I would do that until he tracked reliably without food, till he would go out and he would work several different blank areas, or with nothing in it. He would go out and do 10 minutes of good focused obedience without me baiting him all the time. But there's a lot of time involved before he's willing to do that. He may be 18 months old before that time comes. But so for the first 18 months, I may just be committed to every single meal, if possible. I mean, if you got to go to a wedding or a funeral or the hospital or whatever, there's going to be times when you got to go on vacation, somebody else is going to boarding. But anytime it's possible at all, I would make him do something for his food. So I would take, with your puppy, he eats a cup in the morning and a cup in the evening, or whatever, a cup and a half, or probably a cup at his age. I just measure out a cup of food, put it in my pocket, and we go to work. When I'm out of food, he's eaten his cup of food for the morning. He's had his breakfast. And if nothing else, even if it's just something as simple as, hey, I'm rushed for time, here's a measured cup of food, I'll go out in the yard and just fling it as far as I can fling it, and let him search for his food. And I'm going to go inside, take a shower, and get ready to go to work.
Okay.
And I do that. I got 3 puppies out here now. I've not started training them at all, but almost every meal for the last 2 months they've had. There's 3 puppies out there. I keep them kenneled separately. I measure, and they're about 6 months old now. I measure 6 cups of food in a bowl, and I take that bowl out there and I just throw it as far as I can throw it. And I just scatter 6 cups of food all over the yard, and I let all 3 of those puppies out together, and I go upstairs and go back to work for the IRS. Meanwhile, they're out there for 2 hours picking kibble for kibble out of the grass. So that keeps them engaged. They're using their noses to do something, and they're not skinny. They're no skinnier than they were before I started that. They're not fat for sure, but I'm keeping them kind of thin. But, so they work for their food. Now, when I do start asking them to track or do detection or obedience, they're working for their food. It's nothing news to them. They've been doing that for 2 months. Even though I've not actually asked them to do anything yet, but I'm kind of the groundwork for that.
But their search skills are pretty sharp.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, when I go out, and now if I don't put food out there, if I go out there and open the kennel gate, they run around the yard with their noses on the ground. Did I overwhelm you?
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm glad I have it on tape.
You got your graduation to go to.